You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. Yes, be the new Africa. Join us live now. As you can see, we are live on the Pan-African Daily today with Antigua. I said it. And when I say Antigua, and some people corrected me. I said, no, they don't say Antigua, they say Antigua. So, yes, the queen warrior of Antigua is there. I know the people in the Barbados and Caribbean have been a little bit kind of like squishy, like, hey, what are you guys doing? You don't remember us again? And why? Because this is the first copper. I don't want to say, I already told you that we launched the Pan-African Daily TV together with, by then she was still called Terese S. Millet. And she came on the show. It was all powerful. She told us how to be a queen and a king. She taught us how to just be yourself and just love yourself and just move. I never heard her talked about political discourse or what the situation with us is or what other people think and do with us. All I know, and I've been following her, is always about how do we achieve this happiness from within. And so today our topic is self-love is a solution to world peace. And when we say world peace, we're talking about the global people that are advocating for peace. If you love yourself, you cherish yourself, you respect yourself, you respect how you treat yourself, right? Like you look at my kinky hair. I love my hair. I love my color. I love how I look like, how I speak. I don't want to speak so high or correct or whatever. I love my life, right? I move on foot. I eat what I plant. I say what I think. I share love. So that is self-love. How do we gain that? We have been listening to the past guests that have been on this Global Peace Week. All of them talking the same language. And so it's been a year and almost half a year that we've been on the Pan-African Daily. And we were talking about, we all assembled here. We identify the things that divide us first. And we begin to put them into buckets and cupboards. And like, we were victimized, we were enslaved, we were colonized. And that we are still facing that kind of marginalization, racism, and this and this and this. And we all selected all these pieces that actually take away, disrupt our happiness. Yeah. And, they take away your full potentials. Now, it's been a year and a half. If you have been watching the Pan-African Daily, you've been following from this queen that is here to all the guests been having, you have no reason to still think the way you were thinking 2019, 2020, because we have had enough. We've had enough food. It's just like food for our soul. And sometimes we came to a period where we say, okay, now we've identified all these challenges. Now we need to heal. We need personal healing, right? And now we also pass that personal healing. Now we want to give ourselves love. We want to look at ourselves, you yourself, giving yourself and putting it first. Because if we don't have love for ourselves, we would never love one another. We would not unite. So there's something disrupting us because we've been so focused on the global agenda that we don't come into us. We've not found that space, that comfort zone. We don't even know if we're beautiful. That's why we hate everything about us. We hate our color. We hate our kinky hairs. We hate everything. So because we don't even know how beautiful we are, how the world is so jealous of us. Today, I have this precious queen. She's going to break it down. I would just cross my leg and I enjoy. And I'm inviting all of you to enjoy as well. You can never be the same if you've been watching the Pan African Daily. And even if you're here for the first time and you don't see a difference, please get back to us. Watch our shows. Go even to the first episodes with Queen Terese Millet. Her topic has always been a queen and a king, and always a butterfly. We metamorphose. And this was our first wedding couple. Him and the husband, Brother Ian, would also be joining us sometime later this month. And we're going to share this wonderful love family. They're always dressing alike. If you see that dress on her, you will see it on the husband, right? So thank you so much. I hope all of you are connected. I hope I was able to convince you to love yourself before we go to Agnes. Queen, how are you doing?
I am good. I am good. Thank you for the glowing introduction. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I can't complain. How are you?
With a queen like you, you did only one episode. I didn't even book the next ones. And you see how I'm already like. So I am doing so good, my queen. I've also been through my own challenge, just like every one of us. We have metamorphosed. And then now we are at that top where we're ready to move. Thank you so much. Yes.
All right, perfect. And greetings to all of the kings and queens who are watching the Pan African DTV this afternoon. Welcome to another program, and I am sure today is going to be just as enlightening as it always is. So I greet you on my own behalf and on behalf of my husband, who Dr. Tata just mentioned, who I'm sure is watching as well. So thank you for having me here this afternoon. Glad to be back.
It is always a pleasure, Miss Teresa. And I borrowed this quote from your page. And one thing I want to say about her, she's going to introduce herself and everything that she's been doing before we go into the topic proper. I borrowed this on her page, and she said, it's really her header, right? It's a quote from Sister Maya Angelou, or Queen or Princess, Mother, whatever. She said, my mission is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Now, back to you, Queen. Why is this so really relevant and important to you? You're also a host, an author, and every other thing that it takes for the African to be connected, for humanity, as a matter of fact. So, why did this particular quote define you? It was like your pillow. And I saw it on your header.
Yes, yes. I believe that is the cover on my profile, on my social media platform, and that for me, I feel like it really underscores the way I live my life. Mm-hmm. I think it underscores the way that I show up in the world, and show up in my relationships in general. And that is that I am not here on the earth just to take up space and to die and then just move on. Unfortunately, a lot of people live that way. They're just they're just merely existing. They're born into the world, and they're just here. They take up space, they eat, they go to the bathroom, they sleep, they wake up, they have a job that they go to that don't particularly care about. It's just a money maker, pay the bills, just live, And then one day they will expire, they will transition, they will die, however you prefer to put it. And that's it. And then we are kind of left with the question of, well, what really was the purpose of that life? What did you do with the 50 years or the 60 years or the 80 years that you spent on Earth? What's your legacy? What was your contribution to the planet, really? And if the answer is nothing, then what did you do? What did you do with all the years you were given? And so that's a really big deal for me personally. And so I am about not just living, but thriving. Quality of life is important for me. So I'm not about just get up, make it through the day, go to sleep, get up the following day, make it through the day, go to sleep, and just repeat, repeat, repeat until eventually one day I die and I would have made no contribution to the forward movement of mankind. And so thriving for me is walking and living in my purpose, leaving a legacy, making change, touching lives, not just merely existing here. And so that, I think, is what that quote from Maya Angelou really brings out. And that is, I guess, in a nutshell, is probably the philosophy by which I live my life. And if there's anybody on here who does not know who Maya Angelou is, you are missing out. You need to know who she is. So please go Google Maya Angelou and check her out. Read her work, read her poetry, read the books that she has written, read about her life. She's a tremendous, powerful Black woman who has made a significant contribution to our culture. So yeah, that's the sum of it, pretty much.
Absolute. Anyone who doesn't really know this queen, particularly when she said, and I do so with style. I mean, we watch all her videos and you see the style. You see the way she positions. She puts up that attitude that we are saying, frustrate them. If you wanted to see me, oh, sorry, I don't have time for that, right? And that issue of, not humor, compassion, and everything, but the style in it. And Queen Teresa, you also, I see it in the style that you put even when you do your conference and you do your talk shows and you motivate when you're in the class with your women and even the men. I saw you even doing shows now for our kings, and the style that you put on. Is this something that is value added to our lifestyle?
Absolutely. Yes, most definitely. Gosh, there's a lot to say on that. I don't even know where to start. Let me start by saying that I truly believe that the best way to combat oppression and to combat attacks on who we are as a people and attacks on our culture and attacks on our beliefs and our traditions. How do we combat that? Because we all know that Black culture has historically been under attack. And that's a whole other kettle of fish that we can discuss. But there are many, many conversations and debates and discussions around how do we combat that. I personally believe that the best way to combat the oppression of a culture and a people is for that people to embrace fully, wholeheartedly, unapologetically embrace their culture and resist and reject any other culture that tries to overtake their own. That's the best combat for it. The more they tell you that what you do and what you believe is inferior, the more you need to embrace it. Because the more you embrace it, the more you empower that culture. We need to get into the mindset that our culture needs to be just as mainstream as every other culture. We need to combat the idea that anything that is not ours is automatically better, because this is a narrative that has been out there for a very long time. Anything that is Black is inherently bad. It's inherently inferior. It has to be white or some other shade that is closer to white in order for it to be acceptable and quality. And this is the narrative that we have been fed for many, many generations. And as a people, we have bought into it. Many of us have bought into it. And we have begun ourselves to reject our own culture and to reject what belongs to us, which was the goal in the first place. That's the goal, is to create a narrative that what belongs to us is no good, it's inferior, and that we should reject it. And how do you come back from that? By doing the exact opposite of what they expect you to do. The more they push back against your culture, the more you embrace it. The more you unapologetically show up as yourself and only as yourself. And this is in its own quiet, subtle way, an attack against them without you having to say anything or do anything really. It's just to embrace your Blackness and to show up unapologetically Black in all spaces, private spaces, social spaces, professional spaces, all spaces, in your fullness as a melanated human being. And do it without any embarrassment, without any shame, without any fear, and without apologies. That, for me, is the best medicine for the oppression that Black culture has historically dealt with, for as far back as many of us can remember. And so, with that being said, I will say that that too is a philosophy, is a big part of who I am as a Black woman. And that is, as you know, I'm a Pan-Africanist. I am an advocate for the healing, for the enlightenment, for the unification, for the repatriation of the African diaspora, wherever they are around the globe. I am an advocate for this. And so because I have those philosophies, my whole life revolves around my Blackness. It informs everything I do, quite literally, because it is an integral part of, an integral part of the philosophy by which I live my life. I feel like it's a part of who I am and a part of my role and my responsibility as a Black woman to fully embrace who I am and all the things that accompany me as a Black woman, and to encourage other Black people to do the same. And that is my contribution to the pushback against the oppression that we have historically faced. And so, based on that, my Blackness informs every single thing I do, literally. It informs everything I do, right down to the way I choose to wear my hair, down to my clothing, down to my lifestyle choices. It informs even the jewelry that I wear. My Blackness informs everything I do. And I am intentional about that. And so when I show up in the spaces in which I have to show up on a daily basis, people are going to be hit with a dose of Blackness. When I walk into the room, they're going to be hit with a heavy dose of Blackness. And all the spaces that I show up in get a dose of that because I am about that life. That's what's up. So, and people they get to know me and they understand that I am unapologetic about it. I do not care where I am going. I show up powerfully everywhere and I show up 100% Black. And I think that's the antidote. That's the antidote to the oppressive culture that we have consistently had to deal with as a people. Is to embrace your own. You don't have to fight, you don't have to argue, you don't have to create drama. Just silently begin to embrace your own culture. Embrace it fully and completely and reject all others. And that alone is a revolution. It's a silent revolution on its own without you having to do anything. But there are a lot of us who have not come into that understanding. There are a lot of us, on the other hand, who are also a part of the problem in that we too are rejecting our own culture. We have bought into the idea that if it's Black, it's not good enough. If it's Black, it's inferior. If it's Black, there's something wrong with it. And so we have among ourselves, have cultivated this culture of whitening what is ours. And it's not just whitening of the skin, it's whitening of our ideologies, it's whitening of our spirituality, it's whitening of the way we dress, it's whitening of the way we wear our hair. It's just a generalized whitening of who we are because Europeanization has seeped into our minds. And the Europeanization is you're not supposed to be too Black. You're not supposed to be. I mean, it has things have kind of evolved a bit, I think. There was a time, perhaps back in the 50s and prior to that, coming out of, the slavery era and all of that, there was a time when people were openly against Blackness. And they would straight up tell you, if it's Black, we don't want it. That time did exist. I don't think we are living in those times anymore. This is the 21st century. And so people have evolved to a great extent. Even in these great United States of America, where I live, people have evolved and people are now trying to be more politically correct. And they're trying to be liberal and inclusive. Diversity and inclusion is now the talk of the town. And nobody wants to be referred to as a racist. Nobody wants to be accused of discrimination, So all of that now has kind of tempered the whole rhetoric that if it's Black, we don't want it. Nobody's saying that now. But we are still not where we should be. Because even though they're not saying if it's Black, we don't want it, they also don't want it to be too Black. So they're not saying we want it to be white. Because if they come right out and say that, you could accuse them of being racist. You could straight up say that's discrimination. If you're saying you want a white person over the Black person, that's discrimination. We could take you to court for that. So we're not saying that because that is not acceptable. That's not politically correct. But we still don't want the Black person. So what are we doing? What are we doing in order to be politically correct, but also to not accept the Black person at the same time? We are accepting, but we don't want you to be too Black. You can be Black, but not too Black. Just tone down the Blackness a bit. You know what I mean? So how do we go about toning down the Blackness to make it more acceptable for the European mindset? You have to be careful about what you wear. Don't be too ethnic. You know what I mean? Be more what they refer to as professional. Wear a suit, you
Yes.
know,
Mhm.
straighten out your hair. You know, we don't want too much, you know, the kinky curly. We you know, could you try another style? In other words, whiten yourself a little bit, just a bit, you know, just too black. And that is where we are right now. And I want to say that that's just as bad as them saying they don't want the black person. It's just as bad. It's the same thing. Them coming right out and saying it may be considered worse, but I don't think it is. I think it's just as bad as them saying we will take it, but we we just need to tweak it a little bit because it's too black. We need to reject Europeanization of our culture, of our ideologies, of our bodies completely and totally. We need to outright reject it. No, I am not going to straighten my hair. Give somebody else the job if that's going to be the requirement. No, I am not going to try to be less ethnic in the way I dress. That is the approach that we need to take. We need to completely and wholeheartedly reject any Europeanization of who we are as a people. And we need to also completely and wholeheartedly embrace ourselves as we are. Period. Without any negotiation. That should be a non negotiable for us. And I know that's easier said than done. I know this. But that should be our goal. That should be the aim. So that's my position. I've said a whole mouthful, but that's my position on that.
Yes, of course, your position is very clear. The best way to frustrate somebody, particularly now that we understand that this is it, is just to embrace your own. If we look at the Arabs, for instance, or the Muslims, in the West, we see even the Turks, the way they dress. Do they apologize for it? I mean, even if it is winter, they have their turban and they have their saros, right? And the men, you see, you just see them, nobody needs to tell you.
Right.
It's hard to actually see a Muslim or an Arab, look different, wear a suit they would come in their saros, watch every seminar or top kind of classical world forums or whatever. You just identify them by their look. They don't even need to tell you I'm a Muslim or I'm an Arab. You look at their representation, you just know. How is this possible? And you see the respect that they command because they impose their culture just by representing, like you're saying. How important is really this to our sanity?
Yeah, yeah. And you used a good word there. You said impose. I like that word. I feel like that's what we need to do. We need to impose our culture on other cultural communities. That's what we need to do. That should be our response because they have imposed, quite literally, imposed their culture on us. That's what it is. We did not ask them to come and get us off of the African continent. We were quite literally kidnapped off of the continent and brought forcibly to the Western world. That's what happened. We did not jump on those boats willingly and voluntarily and say, "Take me to America." No, none of us did that. It was literally a kidnap. Back then, it was legal to do it. But we're not going to get into the discussion of legal / moral because legal does not always mean moral or right. That's a whole other discussion. But it was imposed. All of the Europeanization and the whitening of who we were was not our choice. It was most certainly an imposition. It was imposed, it was forcibly put there. They separated us so that we could not preserve our languages. They separated us so that we could not preserve our family units. They refuse to allow the women to even walk around with their hair open and in their braided African style. So they force them to wrap their hair because, yeah, I mean, everything was imposed. It was all an imposition. So why shouldn't we impose our culture on other people groups? Why are we afraid to impose our culture on other people groups? I think the main reason that fear of like we are afraid to take up space as Black people.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We're afraid to take up space. We walk into a room and we often behave as if we don't belong in that room, as if we're begging to be there, as if we do not deserve a seat at the table. We have major issues where it comes to self-love and self-esteem in the Black community. We are literally afraid to take up space.
Correct.
Fearful.
Absolute.
It's an imposter syndrome that we have. Imposter syndrome is a term in psychology that basically means that you are doubting your own capacity. But the fact that you are doubting your capacity does not mean the capacity is not there. As a matter of fact, what imposter syndrome suggests is that the capacity is very much there. You are very powerful, but unaware of your own power and doubting yourself while there are other people out there watching on who are literally afraid of your potential. That is imposter syndrome. And the Black community has a severe case of imposter syndrome. We are literally afraid to take up spaces and we are doubting our own potential because for so many years we have been told that we are incapable, that we are inferior, that intellectually and otherwise we do not measure up. And this narrative has made its way somewhere into our psyche. And even though with our mouths we say we don't believe it, our behaviors often demonstrate that we do believe that.
Correct.
And so we are afraid, we live in fear of taking up space in this world. We behave as if we are begging for a space at the table. Even when you have worked hard for it and you are sitting at the table, you're still sitting there cowering and afraid to state your opinion, to say what your point of view is, to even disagree if you disagree. It's as if we are sitting there and we're so grateful. We're so grateful that they allowed us a seat at the table that we just want to agree and say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Whatever you say, ma'am. I absolutely agree, even if whatever they're saying is crap. That's how we are. And we need to stop that. And that's another thing that I purpose in my life. And my husband will tell you this. This is my anthem. I live to take up space.
Yes.
That's what I'm here to do. I live to take up space.
Yes.
I especially love when they invite me into historically white spaces. Because you know, there are some spaces in this world that are historically white. You don't usually see Black faces showing up in certain places. For example, the White House was a historically white space until Barack Obama showed up in there. That was a historically white space. And we are existing in a world that is predominantly filled with historically white spaces. I love when I am invited to historically white spaces. I just love it. Because that's when I am at my blackest. That's when I am at my blackety blackest. And I am showing up at my most powerful. If I was giving 80% or 90% blackness before, when I walk into that space, I turn it up to 100. And I feel like this This is the medicine. This is the medicine for anti-Blackness in the world today. It's for us as Black people to embrace our culture so openly and so fully that they don't know what to do. They literally don't know what to do. Take up space and do it unapologetically. Take up space. I sat down recently listening to a talk that was someone sent it to me. It was a talk that they were. It was an interview, is what it was, with this African young lady, Chimamanda. What's her surname? Yes, yes, that young woman. She was being interviewed and they were having a conversation around this very same topic, around people of color loving themselves, people of color embracing who they are, building their self-love and their self-esteem, and learning to take up space and not buying into this narrative that they have to tone down their Blackness in order to be acceptable. And Chimamanda said that she truly believes that if Michelle Obama stopped straightening her hair, that her husband would not have won the presidency. He would have lost the election. She said that. She came right on and said that on national TV. I was rolling. I was like, girl, no, you did not. She said that on national TV. And she was unapologetic about it. And the lady who was interviewing her was a white woman. And I saw the white woman's face go like, and she was like, say more about that. And she began to expound on her point of view. I love the fact that she does not back down when she makes a point. She's like, yes, that's my point of view. And this is why I say it. She's not afraid to take up space. I love that about her. And she said that she believes, even though the Obamas managed to bring some Blackness into what was a traditionally, historically white space, they still didn't do it fully. And she said that the reason why she believes they didn't do it fully is because they, perhaps even without knowing it, they were making sure to live up to the expectation that they would not be too Black in the White House.
Sure.
they allow some Blackness in. We allowing y'all to come in here. We're allowing you to move in. But just understand, we don't want too much Blackness. Just enough so that we can say to the American people, we have our first African American president. But you can't be too Black, because too Black would become unacceptable. You know what I mean? And so they, without recognizing it, were also buying into this narrative. And like I said, I personally believe saying we don't want the Black man, or saying we'll take the Black man, but he has to tone it down a little bit, is to me, they are one and the same thing. One is a rock and one is a hard place. No difference. And so she said that she truly believes that if Michelle Obama kept her hair in its natural state, that man would not have won the presidency. Because even though she is still the same wonderful human being that she is, and people recognize that she's an amazing human being, and even though he is still a great human being as well, it would have been hard for people to swallow a first lady with an afro walking around in the White House, like,
or with some dreadlocks.
Or with some listen, sis. No, just that would have been a big no. And I think just her hair alone, would have been enough to prevent him from winning an election. That is how powerful we are. Think about it. Because you could think about that in a negative light. You could think about it as, oh, it's actually keeping me back. It's preventing me from being able to get opportunities. It's preventing me from being able to walk through powerful doors. You could look at it from that perspective. Or you could look at it from the opposite perspective, would be,
A threat.
gosh, my I'm a threat to these people. Like they literally view me as a threat. As it's something as simple as the way I wear my hair makes them feel like, no, that's too much blackness for the White House. Like, we can't have that much blackness in the Oval Office. It's fear. That's what it is. It's fear. And oppression is rooted in fear. No matter how you look at it, if they are oppressing you, it means there is something about you that they fear. So I guess the question is, what are they afraid of? What are we bringing that makes them tremble and shake in their boots? What is it? Because maybe if we can figure that out, we can bottle it and sell it and let all Black people drink some every day.
Oh my God. Each time when you're here, right? I mean, I can't even just like, go ahead, just go ahead. So good. It's so good to be the host, right? When you're here.
Yeah, but seriously, if we could figure out what it is that they are afraid of, what is it that we are bringing? Is it our
Correct.
potential? Is it our intelligence? Is it our spirituality? What is it about us that provokes fear in other cultural communities? What?
Queen Terese, I just want to answer a little bit to that, making an analogy of what Naisha said yesterday. And that was very, very strategic and so good. Just to respond to that, she said, she thinks the fear comes from the fact, when you looted a lot, you lied, you manipulated. And at every time in point, you're just guilty. When you just see the owner, whether they know that you were the thief or not, or you told a lie, you just see somebody, your heart will just bump up, right? And so that threat, and that's why we're constantly being put to something because, are they going to discover that I did this? And he was like, and that's the biggest challenge and the worry, but that's their own. It's not our own anymore. So back to you.
Mhm.
I just want to get
Yeah,
back to that
yeah.
point.
That's correct. I agree with that. That is their bag to carry. Like, the fact that they are afraid of whatever you are bringing to the table, that's not your problem. It literally is not your problem. It's not our problem.
Mm-mm.
It is not my problem to try to calm your fears. You have to figure out what you are afraid of and work on yourself. But you should not, what you should never do is expect me to try to change myself and transform myself into a version of me that makes you comfortable. That is not an option. And this is also a conversation that I have with people all the time. I have this conversation with the women that I teach. I have this conversation with kings as well. This is a conversation both for kings and queens. I have this conversation with my clients all the time. You are not supposed to water yourself down, dilute yourself, reduce yourself, dumb yourself down, turn down your light a little bit so that other people can be comfortable. Don't ever do that. Never. If someone is threatened by or is uncomfortable in your light, let them move and go somewhere else. Do not dim your light so that others will be comfortable. They are essentially, if somebody is expecting you to dumb yourself down, to pretend that you are less than you actually are, because they feel threatened by you and your power, then that person needs to go somewhere else. You cannot ask me to be less than the Creator created me to be. You
That's
cannot
it.
ask me to be less than the potential that the Creator deposited inside of me. You cannot ask me to dumb it down. That is a slap in the face of the Creator. You are basically saying this creation that you made is too loud, it's too powerful. Take out some. You put too much power in this one. Take back some. Who does that? That can't happen. God didn't make any mistakes. Whatever potential was deposited inside you is for you to put it out there in the world. The thing is that there are a lot of people who are threatened by your potential. And in order to be in some of the spaces that we want to be in as people of color, we have decided to buy into that narrative as well. And we dumb ourselves down and we pretend to be less intelligent and less powerful and less capable than we actually are, so that we can fit in to Europeanized spaces. And if all of us are doing that, it's a dumbing down of our cultural community. It's a dumbing down of a race, of an entire race of people. How can we allow that? That is unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable. So there will be no dimming of the light. If my light is too bright for you, put on some sunshades or move. There is a quote that I came across some time ago on the internet, and I thought it was hilarious, but the seriousness of it did not miss me. I believe I even put it up on the Always a Queen platform. And the quote said, "There are some people who cannot handle you at the size that you are. They want you to cut yourself up into bite-sized pieces because they cannot handle you whole. You have a choice to either cut yourself into bite-sized pieces to make them comfortable or let them choke." My thing is, let them choke. Don't cut yourself down into small pieces because other people cannot handle you completely as you are. Show up as the highest version of yourself always, because that's what God expects you to do. God did not deposit the gifts, the talents, the abilities, the capacity, the power that you have inside of you so that you could go and sit down in your house and hide it. No. Your gifts were not given to you for you. They were given to you so you could send them to the world. That's purpose right there. That's a definition of purpose. To refuse to do that is a slap in the face of the Creator. I truly believe that. And anyone who is asking you to do that is also trying to slap the Creator's face. That's an abomination. Nobody can ask me to do that. The people who are uncomfortable in my light, they have no choice but to move, because dimming my light is not an option. I don't do that. Never. I'm not dimming my light to make anybody get comfortable. I don't care who you are. You could be the Queen of England. And like as I said before, I love when they invite me to traditionally white spaces. I just love it when they do that. Whenever I have an invitation to speak in a space that I know is a traditionally white space, and I know that there won't be a lot of black faces there, that's when I show up and show out. And I love that. So I'm here. This is an appeal for them to invite me to Buckingham Palace to see the Queen of England. I would love to have a conversation with Queen Elizabeth. So maybe Meghan Markle can come with me and bring her Rastafarian mom.
We talk about warriorness, and it's like every African, we have that spirit of warriors in us. But what is it that takes some people, like you're saying, being in the battle doesn't mean that when an election is rigged or when there is war or when there is some kind of, injustices or incarceration, that we march out, that we excel in our warriorness. But exactly this point that you're saying, you can be a warrior for your race, for yourself in every space at any time,
Mm-hmm.
even amongst us. Because, like you say, some of even the setbacks are those of us that are becoming coconuts, right? Brown from the outside and white from the inside. And we can I learned it from King Mapoga Joshua. And for my audience, he's going to be our guest on the show tomorrow. And he was like, you know what? Hey, it is now or never. It doesn't matter how many times they're going to it keep shutting us. At one point, they're going to get tired because we will worry, we would impose. And at some time, you either beat me or you join me, right?
Facts. And target first. Let me address two things. First thing, the first point you made there, I absolutely agree with. The idea of being a warrior all the time and not just when something is happening. My husband says this all the time. We have to stop. We have to stop being a reactive people
Yes,
and become a proactive people.
absolutely.
We are too reactive. We wait for something bad to happen and then we react to it rather than being proactive so that we can prevent things from happening. This
Mhm,
is how we should be functioning.
mhm,
Um, and this ties in to the point you made earlier about us not waiting for something to happen to show up as the warrior queens and warrior kings that we are.
mhm.
This is supposed to be a lifestyle.
Of
It's
course.
supposed to be a mindset. It's not supposed to just be a persona that you bring out once in a while when something has happened. You're supposed to be living this 24/7. This is my mindset 365 days a year. Whether
Mhm,
something is happening or not, I am a warrior queen. Why
mhm,
do I consider myself a warrior queen? Because I am always and forever a warrior for my people
mhm,
in every space, in every way. Every time I show up on a platform, at a conference, in a classroom, on my social media platforms, every time I show up, I am showing up for my people. I
mhm,
am representing my people. And if we start thinking in that light, that is going to cause a revolution. We
mhm,
have to get into we have to come into the awareness that this is not something that you just pull out once in a while. You see, like last year when they murdered George Floyd, everybody was up in arms. There was marching, protesting worldwide. Black people everywhere were upset. I knew that was not going to last. Eventually, everybody will go home and calm down. And that's exactly what happened. Why does somebody have to be murdered on TV for us to be up in arms? We're supposed to be up in arms every day, every single day, because George Floyd is just one. I mean, God rest his soul. No disrespect to the dead whatsoever. You know, he's now an ancestor and we reverence him. As Black people, we reverence our ancestors.
mhm,
But he is only one. of thousands of nameless Black people who are murdered in this country every day.
Mm.
We don't hear their names and we don't see their faces because nobody caught it on camera. What they caught on camera happening to George Floyd happens all the time to nameless men and women, not just here in the United States, but wherever you find Black people. And so we need to stop this reactive behavior where we're just reacting and we show up and we show out and we protesting and we're marching and then eventually we get tired and we go home and things calm down, and then the next time something big happens we show up and show out again. And so we're showing up and showing out once a year or once every other year. I mean, no. That doesn't make that you do not bring back a people from oppression that way. That's not how it's done. You do not teach a people to love and to value themselves that way. How do you teach a people to love and value themselves? By letting them know that the show up and the show out is not once a year, it's daily. It's daily. The show up and the show out is embracing who you are in its entirety every single day of your life. That's what's up. So the reactive mindset and going into warrior mode once a year is not going to cut it. You're supposed to be in warrior mode all the time. Because this is constant. The oppression doesn't show up once a year. It's in your face every day. So how are you going to be in warrior mode once a year? How will you ever combat that oppression? That doesn't make sense. That's illogical. If the oppression shows up every day, you need to show up as a warrior every day to combat it. That's the only way this works. The only way. And another thing that I would want to add to that is that we have two oppression issues as I see it in our cultural community. We have oppression that is coming to us from other ethnic groups. And we also have a very special, unique brand of oppression that we have created among ourselves. That is also a serious problem. And that is the reason why you see issues like colorism plaguing the Black community. We have serious colorism issues among ourselves. So in some respects, we don't even have to wait for other cultural communities to oppress us. We are doing it ourselves. Among ourselves, we are fighting and telling each other that we are not good enough, that we need to tone down the Blackness, that we need to take up less space, to not be in people's faces so much, to essentially dim the light and dumb ourselves down. Among us, there are people who are telling us these things because misery loves company. I'm sure we've all heard that statement, but it's not just misery that loves company. Fear also loves company. Low self-esteem also loves company. Low self-confidence also loves company. All of those things love company. It's not just misery that loves company. And so you will find that there are people who live with these things in themselves. People who have work to do on themselves are always going to be in the business of trying to get other people to be where they are. So if you are vibrating a little higher, they're going to do whatever is in their power to get you to drop a couple notches, to be on their level. And so we also need to be careful of this. We need to be careful of the oppressors that are on the outside, and we also need to be careful of the oppressors that are among us.
Mhm. Mhm.
Remind them of who they are when you see them. Remind them of who they are, because many of them have forgotten who they are. This is the reason why we have to be so careful of how we raise our children, too. If you raise your children to know and to fully understand and embrace who they are and where they came from, it stays with them. And many of us did not receive this as children. And so we turn into adults who are unaware of it, but rejecting who we are. Don't love yourself. You on your own, you don't wait for somebody else to tell you that you're ugly. You believe that. You have internalized that idea that
Mhm.
your black skin is ugly, that your black features are ugly, that your black hair is ugly. You've internalized it. Nobody has to say it to you. You just believe it. And that's because you grew up with this narrative. It's a rhetoric that is
Totally.
just,
Yeah.
it's just around you all the time.
Mhm.
It's on social media, it's on the TV, it's in the movies, it's everywhere.
Mhm.
And so raising the way we raise our children is really important. Also, representation is important. Our children should not just be fed this awareness at home. They also need to see black faces in the spaces where they go.
Mhm.
They need to see people doing the things that they aspire to do. And they need to grow up with the understanding and the awareness that they can they can aspire to become whatever they want to become, even though they are brown. And so, yeah, okay, I will pause.
I wanted to tell the listeners that we'll be opening up lines because I see your husband already pushing, wants to call, wants to make a point. Um,
Oh boy.
it is a wonderful pleasure. I mean, and I see a lot of you joining and watching from the continent in the diaspora. We are actually seeking for solutions to our challenges, and now we are walking from the inside of us. We are putting the space that belongs to us. We are taking back that narrative of fear. The moment you understand that somebody's already afraid of you because of what they did to you and your ancestors, so you don't even need to be afraid. So you need to even be more, right? Imposing. So knowing how to develop the culture and how to represent. Sometimes we talk about the culture, but now we're talking about the tips and the tools and how you really can do it. And I want to
Mm,
thank Queen Teresa, who is just putting it the same way it should be. Now we have a lot of us, particularly even those that are conscious, they're contaminated by those that are not conscious. These are also two parties that we need to watch out. And that's what she's saying. Like, like in here in Europe, when we're hosting the biggest African festival, Pan-African festival in Germany, for instance, and you will see even Africans telling, oh no, because we're a black couple or we're a black family, that's why our festivals are really just not. You have to get yourself a Caucasian. Probably my husband had to get a one, and then I get one, and then so you see, and these are not even them. These are part of us, always engineers. So we need to watch out exactly for these coconuts among us, that even though you're Afrocentric in the way you are, they're going to prove you wrong, that you're still the
mm,
primitive African, that you, because your hair is still looking kinky and wild and brutal, so you're not civilized because you still put on your traditional, so natural. Now today, you see the heap on the continent, particularly, is no more white weddings. You see traditional, cultural, Afrocentric with the colorful dance and music and everything. And so that is the spirit that would find peace, and that we can all be warriors to it. So, yes, as I said, I will be opening up these lines. And I also want to drop one point. Tomorrow, we're going to have King Maponga Joshua on the show. Let me just give you a soup head just to give Queen Teresa a 1-2 minutes to have a break. You know, Joshua called and we had a lengthy discussion because there are a lot of so-called how do I want to call them, traditional pastors or the secular pastors that have been operating under this kind of religious type and cult and whatever you call them. And because Joshua has been vocal, and now these pastors are breaking away and they're asking, they're looking for a structure where we all can come together and really begin to serve the Creator, not the man-made God, not the man-made religion. How do we connect spiritually? So I'm just throwing this conversation out because that's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. If you find yourself in that class, in that niche, in that pot, in that cult, in that brainwash that you always thought, why do I pray and my things go different? Why do they ask me? I've done everything, pay your tithes, do this, and nothing works for me, right? Then you know you've been disconnected. You definitely, your line is not going up to the creator of the universe, the creator of your ancestors, the creator that made you in that same image as those that are profaning and saying, no, you have to do like that. And one thing that we want to crack on, who is it on earth that would tell you, no, because your own is not feed, it is my own? So something is wrong about that. Do we think about that? Do we meditate about that? Yes, we are all spiritual, but we are wrong on the decisions we make. So join us live tomorrow. Joshua is the man and the right place. We're not going to be talking about any other thing. We're going to talk about cultural attitudes that we need to pay attention to as Africans. Leave the European culture to them. It is their business. It is their culture. It is their world. We admire it. We love it. Yes, we can also test of it, but don't inherit it. Don't own it. Doesn't belong to you. They don't even like it when you own it, to be honest with you. Right? They don't even want it. So stay in your space. Be who you are. Find your inner peace. Be proud of it. Love yourself above everything. That is self love. And you must have been contributing a lot to self peace. Yes. So I'll get back to studio with Queen Teresa. I mean, we've been saying a lot about this. There's no more that we can chew again and put right here for our people to see that. I want to thank those that are watching from Facebook platforms and those that are also connecting here, and also those that are moderating the conversations. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We are in our thousands watching. I want to thank you so much. Yes. Over to you, Queen.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I'm going to say my husband is a big fan of Maponga Joshua. Big fan, big fan. This month I'm gonna sell my husband out now, and I'm gonna say he loves Maponga so much that he told me this morning, he's like, if Maponga calls me on my cell phone, I have to get another phone. Nobody else can speak to me on this phone after that. This phone is going to be sacred. He loves Maponga so much. But yes, I absolutely agree with you, and I also love to listen to Maponga. So I am looking forward to tomorrow's program as well. But yeah, that's a little comedy relief for you.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, excellent points regarding the coconut mentality, if I can call it that. Where we are outwardly black or brown, but on the inside, we are embracing the Europeanization of our people. And this is a very real thing. And to some extent, I would say we can't, I don't know if you can let me know what you think, but can we even be upset with people who do this? I mean, to
Yes.
what extent can we be upset with them? Should we be sorry for them? Perhaps should we be sympathizing? Should we be compassionate? because maybe they have succumbed to the brainwash. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Because I mean, that is a little controversial. There are some people who will say, no, we're not sorry for them. What we need to do is cut them off. And then there are other people who are like, no, we should actually show them some compassion because perhaps they just need somebody to bring them into the light. Perhaps they need somebody to enlighten them, to teach them. And so I am often not sure how to approach people like that. I mean, the coconut mentality I refer to. So I don't know. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on that. How do you deal with the coconuts?
I think, my opinion, or generally from experience, it is a defeat, and it's also something that we call facilitators. Now, I take the very clear example, like now they brought the tradition of the ritual of baptism, right? Water baptism in the church. It's a ritual. But now, if I say it's a ritual, it seems like a black magic. Just the word, it's an English word. And I say ritual, right? So, but if I say black magic, so you're not supposed to say, no, it's a ritual in the church, because that word has been demonized. And rituals are always everything that has to do with black magic or babaro and, our traditionalists. And so even the words and the terms that we use, even though they are English, they are not Swahili, they still mean something different. What am I saying? We're dealing with a culture of arrogance. We're dealing with a culture of whom we have become sellout. So they brought that religion. My ancestors, my parents, my forefathers, our own, like Desmond Tutu said, or I think it was the president Julius Nyerere said, when they came, they brought the Bible and asked us to pray. By the time we were praying, when we opened our eyes, before we see, we were in the boat and they were on the land. They owned the land, and then we were in the ships. So now let's take it. They brought it, and they did away with everything that we used to do, of course, and the God, the creator that we worship in our own way. And they said, no, 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 you have to baptize your children. Now, they only did it to them, but today look at who are the ones facilitating. It is even me that has to do it now. We don't see them standing and say, no, you have to bring your child. It is a culture that has been so embedded, and it becomes a default. And now we facilitate it. We help them push it through one of us. How deep this is.
Yeah, yeah. I often think about what is the appropriate way to approach, I guess the people that we would refer to as the coconuts among us. I often think about Winnie Mandela. I remember Winnie. Winnie was a revolutionary. Her husband was as well. But if you notice, they had two very different ways of dealing with coconuts. Two very, very opposite ways.
Correct.
And in some ways, I feel like that may have been what really led to the demise of their relationship. Nelson Mandela was a peacemaker through and through. It doesn't matter who you are. He was all about making peace and being forgiving. Winnie, on the other hand, Winnie would hang you up and set you on fire. Right? So sometimes I feel sometimes I am torn between being a Nelson and being a Winnie. And I think sometimes I oscillate between the two, depending on the situation and the circumstances. There are moments in which I am Nelson and I want to teach and I want to enlighten and I want to be forgiving. And then there are other moments when I am 100% Winnie and I am like, no, hang him up in the town square and set him on fire, you know? Um, and I think that there are probably moments that require a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to use our intuition. We have to let spirit guide us, I believe, in determining which side of the fence to sit on in a given situation. Because I truly believe that there are some people who just need somebody to teach them, to sit down and talk to them, to bring them over. This talk show that we're doing right here is probably going to help a few people to step over the line. Just as simple as this. And some people need this. Some people need this type of programming because they literally they don't know. There are certain things they just don't know, that they have never been taught, that they are not exposed to. And for those people, I say, yes, I have compassion. I love to teach. When people ask me questions and I recognize that it is coming from a genuine place and they really, truly don't know and they want to learn, I'm with that. I will teach. But there is also a group that it's not a lack of awareness. It's not a lack of exposure. It's them simply deciding that even though I know what I know, I'm going to dig my heels in and do the opposite. And that's a totally different situation. And so I swing from one side of the fence to the other, depending on who I am dealing with, because there are some people with whom I will have zero tolerance. You know.
Correct. Correct. But we're talking, I mean, switching, we always have to make compromises, or when we're negotiating. You made a point, and I think that's the essential thing. You are you. Yeah, but you have, and it's not about hating some other, or we can work. But I keep myself and my values and my culture, and I respect yours. But the difference is, do I completely just deny myself to inherit your own? That is actually where the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
So the Winnie in the Mandela is, I don't totally really just like, yes, I keep my own, but if you want to impose your own on me, so I'm not me, then I become some other person.
Right.
It's actually some of the things that distort the inner peace that we're talking about, isn't it? If I'm not me, who am I?
Absolutely. That's 100. That's a solid point right there. That's a solid point. I don't think there is anything that disturbs human peace more than them being forced to be something other than what they are. That's probably the thing that disturbs your peace more than anything in this life, is you having to live out your entire life not being able to be who you truly are, never being able to show up as your authentic self ever for your entire life. And believe it or not, there are people who live that way. But these are people who are never at peace in their spirit. They never truly know what it is to live a completely satisfying and fulfilled life. Like, peace is never their baseline. They don't understand the concept of just being at peace. And that does not mean perfection, because people often confuse the two. People think that being at peace means that your life is perfect. That is not what we are suggesting, because your life will never be perfect. There is no perfection. There will always be challenges. That's just how life works. And challenges are not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes challenges come to help you to grow, to evolve, to mature, to be stronger
Right.
and wiser. You know, so life isn't supposed to, I don't think life is meant to be perfect, as we like to put it. Challenges are serve a purpose. So when we say you are at peace, we are not saying you are having a perfect life. What we are saying is that you are showing up in this world. You get up every morning off of your bed and you show up in the world as a true and fully authentic version of yourself.
Correct.
100%. And there are many human beings who have never known what that feels like. They live out their entire lives never knowing what it is like to show up as an authentic, 100% fully authentic version of themselves, just as the Creator made them. And they can't because they do not feel that their 100% authentic self is
Mhm.
enough. It's not good enough. I need to fix it because on its own, it's not good enough. Which is just saying that makes me sad, but it's true. You cannot truly say that you have lived a life in which you have found real, true peace unless you are able to show up as the highest and also the most authentic version of you.
Ashe.
That is where peace is to be found. Anything less than that, no peace.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's a question that we need to ask ourselves every single day. Am I showing up as the highest, most authentic version of me that I can be? If the answer is no, then that is what you need to be working on, intentionally and actively working on every single day. Showing up as the highest version of you and showing up as the most authentic version of you, not a version that has been edited and doctored by society and by the narratives that are prevailing around you. All you need is just what the creator gave you. That's it's on your own. You are enough. And we need to learn to believe this. We need to teach this to our children. On your own, you are enough. Show up as yourself everywhere you go. Full stop. That is where you're going to find your peace, right there. And you find not just peace, but purpose as well, because they go together. They go hand in hand. If you are walking in your purpose, if you are living out the purpose for which you have been created and put here on this planet, that also is going to bring you the level of fulfillment and peace that you are supposed to have. It's not a momentary thing that from time to time you just experience a burst of joy or a moment of happiness, like you're eating the chocolate bar that is your favorite, and while you are eating it, you're completely blissed out and you're enjoying it, but then the chocolate bar is finished, and then what? You're waiting for the next moment of joy and happiness. Like, that's not how it works. You're supposed to exist. You're supposed to just exist in a space of just contentment and peace and fulfillment and just being at peace with the life that you are living, being
Absolutely.
at peace with the way that you are showing up in the world.
Mm.
And there are a lot of people who never experience this. They don't know what that feels like because they do not understand. They have no sense of purpose and meaning in their lives. And therefore, peace and what we refer to as happiness just
Mm.
evades them. They are merely existing. They're alive, but they're not living. So that's my response to that question.
Exactly. Even Nature actually mentioned it. But if you see from the first thing, like my mission is not merely just to survive, like I'm just existing, but I have a
Mm,
purpose, a passion, and a mission to fulfill. And how would God create me black, make me everything black, and then I want to exist in another space? Probably that's also one of the reasons why we don't identify. We're talking about, oh, Africans, blacks don't support black businesses. And it's true. You look at it, a Chinese is owning a shop, even on the continent. An African owns the same shop. Africans will buy. I'm not saying that, okay, everybody should not buy, but there is a tendency that a Chinese in China will not buy from an African who owns a shop in China. I don't even know if they're even allowed to own it. So, what is that pull factor? It's crazy. What pulls me always to something that is not my own? What even comes to my mind? You look at the Indians, even most of them on the continent. If they're going somewhere, they have their dress, they have their head wrap, they have their pin there. Unapologetic, right? But they're selling the same thing, whether it's rice or whatever. And you would find your, oh, no, no, no. It's always, what is that?
Hmm. That's the Europeanization that we were talking about earlier. That is the rejection of ourselves and all that belongs to us that we were referring to earlier. It's the mentality, it's the ideology that anything that is not black is better. That's what it is. If it's black, it's inferior, it's no good. As long as it's not black, we will take it. It doesn't matter what color it is. As long as it's not black, we'll take it. And this has been a repeated ideology that has seeped into our mindset. It has seeped into our psyche. And it has made us afraid to embrace what is ours, and to just be to show up unapologetically as we are, and to take up our space in this world. The idea that black is somehow inferior, is it also lends to the idea that we were discussing earlier, that we are afraid to take up space because we have also bought into the mindset that being black somehow makes us inferior. This comes from the whole eugenics movement that existed way back since Hitler, who suggested, Hitler is the one, I believe, who came up with this whole idea that there are some races that are superior to others. And there are people who believe this, that there are some races that are superior to others. There are some races that are genetically superior. There are some races that are intellectually superior. Like, there are people who believe these things. They truly do. And they therefore believe that there are some races that need to be marginalized and discriminated. There are even people who are radicalists who believe that there are some races who need to be eradicated completely, need to kill them. This is the world that we live in. It's sick, but this is the world that we live in. And a lot of us have allowed these ideologies to seep into our minds. And we, even though sometimes with our mouths we are saying that we reject the ideologies, because it has already made it into our psyche, because it has been repeated so much over so many generations, we do not recognize that it is still directing our behaviors and our choices, even without us being aware. You choose one thing over another when you go into the supermarket. You choose one hairstyle over another when you go to the hairdresser. You choose one dress over another when you go shopping. And you are not even aware that without you even realizing it, the mindset is directing every decision you make and all you do. It's literally directing the way you live your life and the way you show up. And you don't recognize it, because it's deposited in your psyche, and your life is being directed from there without you even being fully conscious that all of your decisions are being directed by a narrative that you have heard over and over and over, perhaps since you were a child. And so it has become so normative that unless somebody points it out to you and says, do you realize that you always choose this instead of that? Why do you do that? And you'll be like, I don't know. I just always choose that. And like, that is a response to a narrative that exists in your head and you don't even know. So we have to be so intentional. We have to be so intentional. about our internal work, about our own heart work. And as I said before, we also have to be very intentional about how we are raising our children. Very important.
Whew. Particularly on that case, because we still have some part in the world, even in the white spaces, where when you show up as an African or a black person, you see even the kids like look at you like you come from another planet. Like there's a world in the 21st century that people don't know that people of color do exist. And so you see, even them educating their children, I think they never sit to watch anything that has to do with a black TV or something. Or we're not saying all, right? But then why do I choose mine to always watch it? That's the problem. And then the terrible thing is I don't even give them the possibility to know about them. It's so crazy. Like migrants, most of our children don't even know that they come from a continent called Africa. And so, but when they sit in the classrooms with their white kids, and the kids even tell them what Africa is more than them.
Yeah.
So I think, like you said, the education, particularly for our children. So we as parents already we damaged, and then now there's nothing wrong. It's just normal. Just
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah. It's just passed on. It's passed on from one generation to another. A lot of the work that I do as a therapist is with trauma, and I work mostly with people of color in my work as a psychotherapist, and I see a lot of trauma that is passed on. Intergenerational trauma is what we call it. And intergenerational trauma is essentially trauma that was never healed in one generation that just gets automatically passed on. And you see it being passed from one generation to the next in a family. It happens all the time. The mother dealing with a certain issue and she never went to get help about it, and the daughter automatically develops that same issue, and then her daughter, and so on, and it keeps going on, and it happens with men as well. And so we have to understand that to heal, to rise up, to be better as a people, we have to be intentional about this work.
Correct.
It is not going to just happen. It's not just going to happen by default. To the contrary, what happens by default is that we pass on the negative and the toxic cycles and behaviors. Those get passed on without you making any effort. You don't have to try. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to make any effort whatsoever to pass on negative cycles. Those do their own work. They don't need your help to move from one generation to another. They move on their own. They move on their own steam. You don't have to do anything. However, the positive cycles, those do need work. Ironically, those are the ones that need work. If you are not intentional about it, the positive cycles do not get perpetuated. It is the negative cycles that get perpetuated without any effort on our part whatsoever. And so we must be intentional. We cannot just sit back and relax and put our feet up and think that we are going to save the generations that come from us by just chilling out. That's not going to happen.
Thank you.
What will happen is the exact opposite. If you begin to relax and kick back and put your feet up, what is going to happen is that every negative, toxic, dysfunctional, generational pattern that exists in your family is just organically going to keep going to the next and to the next and to the next and to the next. And so it must be clear that the work that we are doing is not for us. It's for the generations that come from us. We may not eat the fruit from this tree that we are planting today, but one of your grandchildren or your great grandchildren will. And that should be enough to make it worth this work that we are doing. we have to think about the generations that will come from us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very, very important.
Thank you, Queen. I mean, I wish that we don't even only think that that work would only profit some. That's why some of the people. I wish that anybody that has been following your show, following the Pan African Daily TV, a lot has just in this short period, and most of them are really giving back their feedback how this program, this work has changed them tremendously and how they actually different people. That's why they're reaching out to people like Maponga. They're reaching out to Professor James Small. They're reaching out to Professor Pielo Lumumba. They're following the ADDI. I mean, it is not irrelevant what we sit and do. And I remember King Bongana said, one of the things that we have to pay attention is the consistency. If you look at even the way people develop, if you look at like I take the example, he said borrow the Arabs, Christians, those are meditating, or the Chinese, they do it 5 times a day to stay even in their psychological cultural state. They meditate 5 times a day. All right, imagine us like Africans. We don't have that spirituality where we have our own altars where we meditate and do our own things. You just get up in the morning, like you say, you go to work and just come back. When is it that you find that inner self and that peace to connect? We too busy?
I strongly encourage everyone to have a daily spiritual practice. This is something that I even encourage among my clients. As a therapist, I tell people this. Your spiritual practices make a significant contribution to your mental health. Believe it or not, very significant contribution. And this is not to say that you're promoting any specific type of religious belief or practice. This can look like whatever you want it to look like. There is no specific way to go about it. So I am not promoting a specific practice or a specific denomination or religion or anything of that sort. What I am promoting, however, is that you do need at some point during the day to make time to connect with your creator.
Correct.
That's a must. You need to pause and connect with your divine source every single day. That is how you ensure that you remain centered. That is how you ensure that you are remaining in your purpose. That is how you ensure that your intuition is charged and open to receive guidance, to receive messages, to receive wisdom and understanding about things that you can't figure out on your own, in your own finite humanness. We need that. And the creator is not going to show up in front of you in your bedroom or in your office when you have a tough decision to make, to say, this is what I think you should do. You should do this, do that. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. You are guided. You are guided, but intuitively guided as to what is the correct decision to make when you have a big decision to make. You are guided. How is that guidance coming into your spirit? It's coming into your spirit because you are ensuring every single day that you are aligned with your divine source, that you are connected every day. So in the moments in your day when you have a major decision to make, perhaps a life-changing choice to make, you are guided divinely in your decision-making process, because intuitively you know that whatever downloads you are getting in your spirit, whatever wisdom and understanding of the situation you are getting is being deposited there because you are connected to a source that is bigger and wiser than you. And so I fully, completely encourage that. I endorse that wholeheartedly, 100%. So I don't know if there are people within the sound of my voice right now who do not engage in any spiritual practice whatsoever, or they think it is somehow unnecessary. I say to that, no, it is definitely not unnecessary. It's a need. It's a must.
Thank you so much for that. We had also a guest from the Caribbean who said, I think it was Dacita Gray, who said, now we have to start practicing, even in our African culture, the spirituality of meditation, even for our children. They need to just find time within the day, in the morning or in the evening, and just have a quiet moment for themselves. And because this builds up that spiritual connection to know that this is my inner self, this is who I am. Do you also share that opinion?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I do not have any children of my own yet. But I can tell you that that is going to be a very integral part of parenting for me. And I encourage parents to make this an integral part, like a non negotiable in their parenting process. And that is to be intentional about introducing your children to a spiritual practice. I think it is very important. Um, I think one of the main reasons why this is important is because I ask myself the question, how does a human being come into a clear understanding of what their purpose is and why they were created and placed here if they have no connection to the Creator?
Mm-hmm.
They go hand in hand. I cannot teach my child purpose unless I first teach my child that he or she was created with purpose. And
Mm,
so that requires an introduction to the Creator, doesn't it? It's
absolutely.
that is how you would have to teach the concept to the child in order for the child to fully grasp the idea that he or she was created with purpose. So
Mm,
you were not just created just and put here to take up space, to eat, sleep, and die. That is not how it works. The Creator placed a specific, unique purpose on your life and
mhm,
on the life of every single human being.
mm.
And to not walk in your purpose is to dishonor the Creator.
I share.
And so, this is how you would need to present the concept it
Mhm,
to a child in order for that child to fully grasp the
mhm,
understanding of what purpose is, and also for the child to grasp the importance, the significance of purpose. Because if
mm.
you were created for a specific purpose and you live out your entire life without having fulfilled that purpose, then what did you do with your whole life?
I think, Queen, this is the question where the educational system comes in play. All right, we were born here, even in the West, is even terrible. Even at 0 age, now you already are left over. And then later on, you go to kindergarten and then to school. So it's like you just born and then put into that world where you don't have that space. But the system that she was saying is a combination of both. We're not saying that the educational system or whatever, I mean, if not Afrocentric, but it's okay. But what they do is every day they go to school, the kids have 30 to 45 minutes only to meditate. It is a ritual, and they meditate. It's a spiritual connection. Then they can go about their whole day. But like us, we don't have that culture. We have maybe, okay, yes, that's why Sundays they go to church and then, or pray to God and stuff like that. But it's a common culture, even in the Indian culture, particularly the Chinese, the culture of meditation, connecting to the Creator. Because through this meditation, you find your purpose. But imagine you never do it, and then you just get into an educational system. You follow the work, work, work. After that, you get a job and then pay bills and then die.
Pretty much. Pretty much. And I guess that what I would say to that is that you, as a parent, you cannot rely on somebody else to teach purpose to your child. That really is not someone else's role. So let us not make the mistake of relying on the education system or whoever else we usually dump that job onto to um, to teach these things to our children. This is the job of the parent, really. It is your role. The education system really is only supposed to be like it's supposed to just be a supplement to what the child is getting at home. The foundation of the child's life, the foundation that is to be laid in that child's life is supposed to be laid by you, the parent, not by the teacher. The school is merely a supplement, and there's only so much you can do to change the education system. You do, however, have complete control over what happens in your home. And so I say focus your attention on the place that you do have control, which is in your house, and give your child the foundation that he or she should be getting. Because when you send your child out into the education system with a solid foundation, it is way more difficult for anyone to be able to influence your child in a direction you would not want.
Correct. That is the point.
Yeah.
That is the point. That is the point. Thank you so much. We're rounding up the conversation. We're 2 hours, yes, into it. I don't know if some people want to ask questions or to make a feedback or to give a recommendation. We want to thank you all for signing in into this onto this conversation today, and it has been very, very useful because we've been talking about every other thing, but we're starting from the basics of how do we get inner peace. And from every conversation or what we've heard, we have to even teach it. Peace is not something that is left in the churches. Because when we hear this word peace, it is as if it has to be, oh, United Nations for peace and security for this and conflict resolution for peace. Peace is also that which you need to create happiness, which all of us are going after. And if we don't have that inner peace, how do we even solve the conflicts? How do we solve even a problem of complex that we're facing, or the outside world that is so tough? So it has been a wonderful pleasure to have you here, Queen Teresa. And I'm telling you, these lectures, we're going to repeat it. We're going to restream it again for people that did not have the possibility to watch it. We're going to rebroadcast it. Tomorrow, we're going to rebroadcast the conversation with Professor Baena Bello on the knowledge of self. We're going to rebroadcast it at 12 p.m. At 12 p.m. should be 6 p.m. out there. And so you would just watch it, click the notification bell. You would see when it's coming up. And then in the evening, we're going to get Maponga Joshua, like we said. And Monday, the program continues. We have to stay consistent on our work. I want to thank most of you, the volunteers that are signing in to say, what is it that I can do? We talked about selfless volunteering as a way to actually do work out of passion, not do work because you're employed and then you expect something. Come to us with a passion to say, I want to help, I want to support, I want to contribute, I want to bring my own know-how to the development of us Africans in the Africa that we want. Generally, in every sector, we need support, we need help. We need workers. We need people that want to work for the continent selflessly without being employed in the government system. People that are passionate to say, this is the work that I want to do for my people. If you're some of that people, and we've been getting a lot, we had about 10 applications just yesterday that we launched that campaign, and it's still going on. just contact us, drop us your CV, or just drop your name. It's enough for us to build that in every county, every village, every, you want to be a coordinator or a regional or a correspondent, you want to report news, you want to give us stories that we need to, you want to show some examples out there, particularly those on the continent and those in the diaspora in your respective areas. Are you in the Caribbean, in the America, in China, and you're a Black person, and you see something that the community has to learn from it, or how do we, connect more often? Please, we are looking forward, and we're building this huge network. We have already more than 100 correspondents all over. People who are saying, yes, I want to be in my region. I want to be the group that would oversee the youth people. I want to work with the women. I want to report things that are, so we need it. And I think that's the way forward that we're saying we want to change. We want to revolutionize without selflessness, volunteering. Those that are contributing, we thank you so much. If you can contribute to support the work further, but what we really need is the skills, those that are ready to work, those that are saying, yes, I can report from here, I can stream, I can host, I can say something, my community, what they're doing. This is the spirit that we all started with. And so we're looking forward to just have you, and we're grateful and thankful, and not even us, but be grateful to the creator, because that must just be your purpose, that you were created to work for your race, to work for your people, to share love, to educate, to comfort one another, to heal one another, to support. In anything, there's always work on earth for us to do for our people. We're looking out for such passionate people that do not just want to exist, but to thrive and build a legacy for Africa. So we thank you so very much, my queen. You're already doing it at your own space. You're already doing it, and we're so grateful. All of us from the Pan African Daily TV are also thankful. And I bring warm greetings from Professor P.L. Olumumba. And he said, please don't worry, because he's been absent on the Pan African. He's coming in the next days to us, but he's also been faced with death here and that, just like Professor James Moore. So all our leaders and our role models are there. They're doing the work in the background. But we need you young people. Come in your numbers, in your communities, and just say, I want to do something. What is it that I can do? Ask. There are tasks for everybody. And this kind of task of selfless saving is a noble task. There's no amount of money that would even pay you that you'll be grateful for it. So imagine that a lot of us are just doing it. I guarantee you, the Africa that we want, the African connection, our unity, our love, and our peace is just a step ahead. So thank you so very much. One last word, my queen, before we depart from you. Your last.
Okay, yes. Oh, my parting shot. Well, I can only say thank you once again for your invitation to be here today. It was a pleasure, as usual. And also to just continue to encourage the kings and the queens who are watching us now and who will watch this recording later to just embrace themselves, to understand and to become aware of their power, of their potential, and to begin to show up as themselves and only as themselves 100% every single day. The way to combat an oppressive culture is to fully embrace your own. So let's embrace ourselves. Let's begin to truly love ourselves, and let's not love ourselves quietly. Let's love ourselves out loud so that we can begin to reclaim all of the things that have been taken from us, robbed from us for generations. So that's my parting word.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you. We also love you, and we send you all the blessings and peace out there. And I also want to thank that were active on the conversations today. I can see Soto Warrior, Caleb Black, Paul Brown, Ebukun, Marshall, Johnny, Kofi, all of you have been very, very contributive. You have been proactive, as I can see. It doesn't matter what kind of comments we're having there. We have a lot of work to do. Our land is being taken by foreigners on the continent. The diaspora needs citizenship. We need a lot. We need repatriation programs. And next week, we're going to be talking about repatriation programs. We're going to have Dr. Mila, from the UNI is going to be our first guest, and others will just follow in that. We want to focus really. We've been digesting our piece, our work, our engagement, and everything. Next week, we want to talk about repatriations. If you are in an organization and you are working in that sector, if you have a knowledge to share, whether your repatriation services are on the continent or in the diaspora, please contact us. We would like to share that experience with you. We would like to share your platform with others that are looking for those services and that's in the diaspora, in the continent. Yes. So we need you so much as you do need us. Thank you so very much. We're going to meet us again tomorrow, same time with King Maponga Joshua, and next week as we continue. Good night. Bye-bye to you, Queen. We see us again very soon. Bye. You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.